Hi, welcome folks. I'm very pleased to be here today to make an important and long-awaited announcement. MedSafe, the government's consenting agency for medicines, MedSafe has just approved melatonin to be sold over the counter in pharmacies. Previously, you had to have a prescription. Very few people were willing to do that, and there was no market for melatonin. By making it available over the counter, you'll be able to go to any pharmacy and buy melatonin for jet lag or insomnia just as soon as it's available to be sold in New Zealand. And part of the purpose of my announcement today is to call on the melatonin manufacturers of the world to apply to bring their products into our country. For too long, New Zealanders with insomnia and jet lag have been neglected by the melatonin manufacturers of the world, and we have not been able to get access just like people in the US and most of the developed world are able to do. You saw when we liberated pseudoephedrine last year, manufacturers very quickly applied and were enabled to sell within New Zealand. Huge numbers of colds and flus have been knocked over by a bit of the good old pseudo since we did that. Now we hope very soon to see melatonin consented in New Zealand to be able to be sold here since we've classified it as an over-the-counter medicine. However, the good news does not stop there. Psilocybin is now legal to be prescribed by initially one psychiatrist, and this is a real breakthrough. Psilocybin is a medicine that can treat untreatable depression. It was first researched in the 1950s and 60s, and more recently there's been extensive research and approvals by the FDA in the United States to be able to use these types of medicines to treat the untreatable when it comes to depression, and we're very pleased to see that MedSafe is increasingly enabling New Zealanders to access a wider range of medications to address their issues. Very happy to talk about anything else from the Census or whatever you may like to ask about, but I really wanted to come down and call on the world's melatonin manufacturers to start supplying New Zealanders with jet lag and insomnia.
Just on that, how long do you reckon it's going to be?
Well, of course, we're entirely dependent on the manufacturers to apply to have specific products available in New Zealand. The market dried up because it was so restricted, no one wanted to sell here. But when we did this with pseudoephedrine, it was a matter of months before products were on the shelves, and I hope we can beat that record.
Did you get any pushback from any of your cabinet colleagues on either of these in terms of making them more accessible?
No, this is a decision to be made by MedSafe. It's not actually a political decision made by Cabinet, but I'm here to...
Conversation with them about whether it was something they were comfortable with or not?
Well, certainly I've discussed with some of them, but ultimately their response is, well, some of them are very enthusiastic about the melatonin, but ultimately they respect that it's a technical decision for MedSafe.
What was the rationale for not allowing flavoring melatonin in the past from previous?
The decision was made back in 1996. It's actually hard to find the reason, but there's no compelling logic when most countries in the world allow you to buy it. And even under our previous laws, before today, you as a New Zealand citizen could fly to, say, Singapore, load up with 3 months supply, come back through New Zealand customs, perfectly legal, no questions asked, take that product here in New Zealand, and that would be fine, but you can't go along to the pharmacy in your neighbourhood and buy it. Well, that makes no sense.
Have you ever taken it before?
Have I ever taken melatonin? No, I have not inhaled melatonin, but maybe I will. I've had some recent issues with jet lag of my own, so hopefully in the future I'll be able to.
Psilocybin, you say, obviously one psychiatrist at the moment. So is it a sort of a pilot period of sorts? And if so, when do you think MedSafe or government level would look at extending that?
Well, one psychiatrist is able to prescribe, but also what's happened today is that other psychiatrists are able to apply for the same clearance. Previously, it's only been allowed for clinical trials within New Zealand. Now it can be used for clinical treatment. And I hope that there'll be more psychiatrists that will apply because it appears to be a medication that can help with really untreatable depression, which is an awful thing for some people. So greater availability can only be a good thing.
So this was one particular psychiatrists who had proactively gone to MedSafe and sought approval?
Yeah, it's fair to say it's been driven by people in the profession. There's a lot of people very passionate about this because, untreatable depression's an awful thing. And there are clinicians who say, look, there's stuff happening in the rest of the world and we need to be part of it.
Have you ever tried psilocybin?
Look, I haven't. I used to go mushroom hunting with my dad as a very small kid, but I don't think we found any.
Have you been using pseudo since it's been available?
Look, to be honest, even small viruses don't seem to want to come near me, so I haven't needed any pseudoephedrine. But maybe I could use it to repel a few of the other minor irritants I come across in my job.
I'm not even going to ask what you think they are.
The census information, or the census CPI coming out monthly instead of quarterly, eliminates some of that lag. It looks like the government's also making good use of the data it already has at its fingertips. You must be pretty happy with the moves today.
Yeah, look, we live in the internet age and the government has to keep up. If we can get more rapid information for CPI, if we can do a census without having to send paper to everyone in the country and just use the data the government already has, that can only be good for our productivity.
Do you have any message to, I suppose it might be a little bit redundant now, but the use of incentives for people to do their census? I mean, it seems like the days of that is over.
Well, there will continue to be surveys, and we do need people to fill out Stats New Zealand surveys when they send them out. We just won't be sending a census to the whole country anymore. But if you fulfil a Stats New Zealand survey when they come out, if you're a business or a household or whatever, you are actually helping provide information that allows the country to function and run.
Announcement this morning by Chris Bishop around central government having the ability to say to local council, actually, we don't like what you're doing on a particular provision if it's interfering with its employment, development and economic growth. Some would say that that's quite an overreach, especially for a government that's been quite focused on localism and devolution. What's your take on, I guess, having a power like that? Because it's quite a big thing to do.
Look, you've got to look at it the other way. The Parliament in the first place gave the council the right to stop you building on your own land. Now, I think having a bit of a safety valve on that, where someone in the same government that let the council restrict your rights in the first place can say, no, this person can build, is important. I think there's another important issue at play here, and it's this. The councils have an incentive to say no, because they have to pay costs for development and they have not in my backyard people. On the other hand, central government's now spending $5 billion a year on housing subsidies because there ain't enough houses in this country. So there has to be a bit of a balance between central and local government, and this helps achieve that. All right, folks. Well, look, thank you very much for coming out for this important and long-awaited announcement, and I hope that you have a fantastic afternoon.